In this movie, we'll take a look at a very simple feature of the bones called bone locking. Sounds rather painful, doesn't it? But it's a very useful feature, easy to understand, and we'll apply it to this character we began working with in the preceding movie, our ballerina. We've already got our bone constraints in place for this character. We also have, and you can tell by the different colorization, that these bones that we're using to influence the muscles have been connected via that special feature in the bone constraint area. And if I select that right now and we open the bone constraints, we can see that we have the angle bone control on, so that has changed the color. We'll look at these other two sections later on as we start working with some more complex scenes. Well, this is a super easy one. Won't take much time, but I'll show you how to apply that. I'm going to select the foot bone. We'll come up here to Constraints, not open the window, but we'll simply select Lock Bone. What this does is Anime will try very hard to go ahead and keep this bone right where it is right now. Now we're getting very close to the point in time where we need to start considering how your shape changes over time, which is of course animation. This is not the animation section, but you won't see the influence of bone locking when you're on frame 0. And this is where you design your characters, you build them, you go ahead and rig them, just like we've done here in Set Up Bones. However, little items like lock bone, you can't tell what they do until you actually get into the timeline, you move down time, and then you change your character. Let me show you what I mean right now. I'm just going to click down range on the time here and move my little arrowhead down there, the time counter. I'm going to change to my bone translation tool, which is keyboard shortcut T, and I'm going to grab the hip bone because everything's connected into that. Now since we're down time, Anime is going to assume we're animating at this point, and it's going to lock this bone in place so it doesn't move while I move the body around it. Because we already set up constraints, we also have our influencing bones for muscle flexing. We can see that going on. If I drag the character up, notice that the toe does not point down. So it's not a complete inverse kinematic as we learned earlier. That is something you would have to rotate manually to get this calf bone to flex. But notice when I pull up, of course, it straightens the leg out, but the foot does lift off. As I push the figure down, it gets to a certain point where a constraint hits, and then it pushes the foot below the floor. So we can change the constraints a little bit if we want to, and the constraint that's doing that right now happens to be this one right here on the lower leg. So you don't rig or change the rigging or the bone influence when you're downrange in the timeline like this. You actually need to go back to frame 0. That's what I'll do right now. I'll select this lower leg with keyboard shortcut B. We can see that the constraint ends right here, and I need that to bend just a little bit more. We know that legs bend more, but we're going to get a slight overlap in the drawing, and it will try to create a hole there. Let me go ahead and increase this a little bit. Remembering that, of course, the positive influence, Anime thinks of the rotational values in a circle, starting with 0 at the bottom. Positive rotation goes counterclockwise from the bottom. Negative values go clockwise from the bottom. So a value of 100 means 100 degrees. 90, of course, would be straight out to the side, so it's a little beyond that. I'll select Close. We'll come back down here to where we had this set up originally. I'll switch to Translate Bone Tool, keyboard shortcut T, grab the hip bone. Now when I force the character down, we'll get a little more flex in the leg before it starts bending all the way down. So this is an easy way to go ahead and start creating some automation where you don't have to pay attention to every little detail that goes on. This is a function that can be keyframed, so that you can have a foot or something locked in position and then later on in the timeline unlock it and move it. So it's a great way to accelerate your development of your animations. In our next movie, we'll take a look at another way to automatically create some functionality with your bones, and that is bone dynamics.